Project Search.
Hey y'all, it's Danny again, and today I'm going to continue our series of presentations about preparing to return to UTMC. Today we'll be focusing on emergency codes. We have, of course, discussed emergency codes several times in the past during Project Search, but with our imminent return to the medical center, I thought this would be a good time to go back, revisit the subject, and make sure that everyone knows what to do when they hear a code, what the codes mean, and so on. Project Search UTMC Remote Learning, Preparing to Return, Part 5, Emergency Codes Review. Emergency codes. What do they mean? What do you do when you hear one? Code blue. When you hear a code blue, that means someone has lost consciousness and could be in cardiac arrest. Medical professionals will respond to the emergency. Project Search interns should stay clear of the area where the emergency has taken place. Code blue is one of the more common codes. It's very important to be familiar with its meaning and what you're supposed to do. Code 5. When you hear a code 5, that means an infant or small child has lost consciousness and could be in cardiac arrest. For a code 5, as with code blue, medical professionals will respond to the emergency. Project Search interns should stay clear of the area where the emergency has taken place. The separate code for cardiac arrest for children and infants exists because the AED that is used for children and infants is smaller than the one used for adults. You may hear this code less often than a code blue, but it can happen. So make sure you're familiar with what you're supposed to do when you hear one. Code red. If a code red is announced, that means that a fire or signs of a fire have been observed. If you are in an area that is affected by the code red, you should exit the area immediately. If you are not in the area where the code was indicated, follow instructions from your managers, mentors, and Project Search staff. Code red, again, is not maybe as common as blue, but you may hear it sometimes. It's very important to know what to do. Code green. If someone's behavior becomes violent or threatening, then a code green is announced. The medical center's police officers and other designated personnel will respond to the situation. Project Search interns should not go to the area where the incident is taking place. They should continue their tasks as usual. If you go to the area where the code green was called, you could get hurt. Code green is one of the more common ones that you might hear. Make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do should you hear one. There are several more codes that you might hear while you're at the medical center. And while these aren't all very common, it's still important to know what you should do. Code orange means hazardous incident. Typically something hazardous, some type of substance, chemical, etc., has been spilled somewhere. And a special team of hospital personnel will respond to that. Your job as an intern is to stay out of that area or leave that area if it occurred where you happen to be at that time. Code pink is infant child abduction. With the code pink, we need to stay inside the hospital during the code pink until it is cleared and watch for anyone acting suspiciously. Report suspicious activity to hospital personnel or a hospital police officer should you see one. Code gray indicates that a tornado has been spotted in the area. With a tornado, you need to make sure you're indoors and standing away from windows. Code yellow indicates that there is a mass casualty or surge. That means that a large number of patients have come to the medical center for treatment all at one time. Normally, you will continue doing what you typically do unless you are otherwise instructed by your mentor, your supervisor in your department, or by a member of the Project Search team. Code purple indicates a shooter or hostage situation somewhere in the medical center. If you hear one of those, you stay where you are unless you are told by a hospital official or safety officer to leave your area. We will talk in more detail about the code purple when we get together to discuss the presentation. Code echo is the code that means that you need to evacuate or get out of the medical center immediately through the closest exit. Code key means the opposite of echo. You need to stay inside. Do not go outside if a code key has been called until it is cleared. Echo and key we will also discuss in more detail when we get together to discuss the presentation. Here are some things to remember about codes. Always follow instructions given by managers, mentors, and Project Search staff. By staying out of the way during a code blue or 5, you can allow the person in cardiac arrest to get the life-saving help they need. During a code green, stay in your area and away from the code location to avoid getting hurt. During a code pink, you must stay inside until the code is cleared. If you ever hear a code key, you must stay inside, and if you hear code echo, evacuate immediately. If you evacuate your area due to a code red, use the stairs, not the elevator. I hope you were paying close attention to the presentation because we're going to have a quiz. Go back and watch the video one more time if you think you need to. I hope everyone does very well on the quiz. And as I said before, we will discuss in more detail some of those codes in the presentation. So long, farewell. Auf Wiedersehen. Good afternoon.